Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Independence Day has extra meaning this year to some San Diegans who just became U.S. citizens. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. The USS Midway Museum was the scene of a very special ceremony today for 50 members of the military. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer has the story.
It was a momentous occasion just ahead of July 4th. The holiday is a marker of our nation's freedoms and independence. Now, for some members of the armed forces, it holds an even deeper meaning.
To all you before me, congratulations. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for serving this nation, for embracing this nation, and most of all, thank you for perpetuating these United States of America. God bless America.
50 members of the military became new U.S. citizens. The ceremony was held aboard the historic USS Midway.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Which was built during World War II.
Yes, I'm happy.
Among the crowd was Lance Corporal Awasaku Obina. It took him 4 years to become a citizen.
I came over here with my brother from Nigeria with a permanent resident card. And then I never tried applying for citizenship because I thought okay, I'll have to wait so many years before I naturalize.
The San Diego event was one of 180 different Independence Day themed naturalization ceremonies across the country.
And to the republic for which it stands.
All hosted by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. For those who have yet to become citizens or for those who are in the process, Obina has a message.
Don't give up. So just be patient and be honest. That's all I can say.
Between June 30th and July 7th, more than 5,500 people will become new United States citizens during the country's most patriotic time of the year. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The doctor and nurse who were assigned to care for an inmate who died at Las Colinas detention facility will stand trial on involuntary manslaughter charges. That was the decision announced by a Superior Court judge today. Dr. Friedrich von Lintig and nurse Danielle Pasqua are accused of criminal negligence in the 2019 death of 24-year-old Elisa Cerna. The judge also temporarily suspended Pasqua's nursing license. Elisa's father, Michael Cerna, says this is one step closer to justice and sends a message to people working in detention facilities.
That accountability is there, and they will face it for their actions.
This isn't the end for us. We still have to go to trial with these two defendants, and we hope they're held accountable at trial. And then I think maybe the Cerna family will have some peace.
There have been 8 deaths in San Diego County jails this year, including 2 just last week. A trial date has not been set. If convicted, von Lintig and Pasqua could spend 4 years in jail. Holding office in San Diego County is becoming increasingly dangerous, especially for women. KPBS reporter Amita Sharma says a local study is providing concrete evidence.
Local academics recently reviewed the Twitter accounts of San Diego County elected officials, mayors, council members, supervisors, and school board members dating back to 2018. Out of a cache of 500,000, they extracted 13,000 aggressive tweets. From those tweets, researchers found women are 3 times more likely than their male counterparts to be threatened over social media. Rachel Locke is the director of the Violence, Inequality, and Power Lab at USD, which conducted the poll.
Women tended to receive threats or harassment that were much more personalized in nature, sexualized in nature, that involved family members.
While the sample size was small, Locke says women of color face particularly high levels of threats and harassment. 2/3 of men reported harassment, but the number was much higher for local women, 82%. Flashpoints include COVID restrictions, gun rights, and racial issues. Locke says the intimidation is coming from across the political spectrum. Moderates were targeted the most, followed by liberals, then conservatives.
Both the survey and the interviews showed is that this is not just a nasty rhetoric that's coming from people of different political parties. A lot of our elected officials reported getting threats and harassment from people within their own party, accusing them of not being enough, right? Whether that's extreme enough, whether that's left enough, right enough, strong enough on a certain issue.
The next phase of the survey is to brainstorm solutions to reducing threats. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego's first safe sleeping site has been open since last Thursday, but so far not many people are using it. The city confirmed with our media partner ABC 10 News that only 12 people stayed there the first night it opened. 15 people used it last night. Bill Mulligan has stayed there for the past 4 nights. He says he was expecting there to be showers and laundry available, but was told those amenities will be coming later.
They look like they just picked the tent up from where it was on the sidewalk and brought it in here with all the junk, all the trash. And like I was speaking with them, I was like, if you guys don't put a stop to this now, it's just going to continue to grow.
The city recently passed the Unsafe Camping Ordinance, which makes it illegal for people to camp on public property if shelter beds are available. It takes effect later this month. The San Diego County Fair comes to a close tomorrow, and if you want to celebrate the 4th of July at the fair, you'd better plan ahead. As KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen shows us, on-site parking may be hard to find.
These fairgoers have different reasons for taking the bus shuttle from off-site parking to the fair. Some don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to find parking on site. Others, like Tijuana resident Maria Duraso, don't want to deal with the traffic when leaving the fair.
Because it's easier to get in and out. When you're done, if there's a lot of traffic, then you just take the shuttle and you go all the way there. You skip all these outside lines that you make.
She used to find street parking for the fair, but that's gotten harder to do.
So now we prefer off-site.
For others, like Kenroy Reed, planning ahead was key.
100%. Last year, we parked way across the street. So it was a lot different, and it's way in the back. So we had to walk forward and use the thing to come over here. So it was crazy.
This year, he had a contingency plan.
If it's that packed, I'm just going to pay for preferred parking, because preferred parking is never like filled up.
Planning ahead for the parking is the advice of fair officials. Tristan Hallman, spokesperson for the fair, says on-site parking sold out in recent days.
We don't have as much parking as we used to. Back in the old days, we restored some of that to wetlands habitat. We also see people here spending more time at the fair, so you don't have that same turnover.
He also recommends people take public transit to get to the fair, like the Fair Tripper from MTS and NCTD.
It's $20 per person. The cost of admission is included, so basically it's paying for itself. You're getting the round trip ride, and you're getting into the fair without having to show up and buy a ticket.
It's the last few days of the fair and the sun's out, so that means a lot more people are coming to the fair, but that also means on-site parking is going to be tough.
The 4th of July is typically one of the busiest days at the fair, so if you want to take your chances, be prepared for a long walk.
If you're gonna just come, then you might not be able to find a parking. You might be parking all the way up to the gas station and walk down here, so just saying.
If you do plan on going to the fair tomorrow, fair officials say you should buy your tickets ahead of time to guarantee admission. Officials expect a sellout crowd. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
The Metropolitan Transit System is expanding service to handle crowds expected at 4th of July events. That includes extra trolley service to Petco Park for the Padres and Dodgers game. That starts at 3:40 tomorrow afternoon. You can also take the trolley to catch the Big Bay Boom fireworks show tomorrow night. That one starts at 9. Many people associate 4th of July celebrations with traditional fireworks displays. But this year, 2 San Diego communities are instead embracing drone technology. KPBS reporter Andrew Dyer has more from Ocean Beach.
Since 1980, Mike James has helped organize the 4th of July fireworks shows launching from the Ocean Beach Pier. But in 2019, structural damage from storms made the pier an unsafe launching point, and the shows were canceled. So James founded Luminosity, a community organization that raised money for a drone show in place of fireworks Tuesday.
This is a reimagination of what we had before.
Just after 9 p.m. on the 4th, a few minutes late, in keeping with what James calls OB time, 300 drones will launch from Ocean Beach Elementary for a 12-minute show. Flight times are limited due to drone battery life, he says. He also says drone shows are better for the environment, as well as pets and veterans living with post-traumatic stress.
It's been shown that during 4th of July, there's a large increase of lost dogs, of combat veterans that have to hide away because of their PTSD and the effects that fireworks have on them.
Skyworks Drone Shows, the company Luminosity paid for the display, has put on several similar shows at festivals around the world. A show from the La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club featuring 100 drones will launch at 8:45 Tuesday. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
If you're looking to catch a fireworks show tomorrow night, there are plenty of events to choose from. You can find a list on our website, kpbs.org. From affirmative action to student debt relief, recent rulings from the Supreme Court are raising questions about how they'll play out in the real world. Mike Valerio explains what these critical decisions could mean for higher education.
As the proverbial dust settles around the United States Supreme Court following a contentious term, the immediate consequences for everyday Americans are becoming more clear.
The Roberts Court these days is more eager to overturn older precedents than any court we've had at least probably in the last century.
In striking down affirmative action programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, the court effectively determined colleges and universities can no longer expressly consider race in the admissions process.
It prevents our higher education institutions from using a tool that helps promote diversity on campus.
And while the court suggests the impact of an applicant's race in their life can still be taken into consideration, and proponents of ending affirmative action say it makes the process more fair, many fear diversity in higher education will suffer in the long term.
I'm very concerned about the morale that that's going to have on our minority youth.
For those who are already in or have gone to college, the court also struck down President Biden's student loan debt cancellation program, a win for Republican-led states and conservatives who claimed it was illegal.
We're talking about 40 million Americans that are going to be crushed by debt in just a few months.
As the administration works to find a new approach to debt relief, the 3-year pause on loan repayment started during the pandemic is soon expiring. Borrowers will have to resume paying their federal student loans in October, with interest set to begin accumulating again in September. The White House says, however, it will offer a 12-month on-ramp period for borrowers who are re-entering payment. I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Getting room service might take a bit longer than usual for some travelers in Southern California this July 4th holiday. And there's another standoff which could play havoc with the entertainment industry for at least the next few months. John Lawrence has the latest.
Roughly 15,000 employees at 65 major hotels in the Los Angeles area walked off the job Sunday and are on strike. The union representing the workers say they've been in talks since April over issues including an immediate $5 per hour raise and better health care and retirement benefits.
All of this stuff is happening with the backdrop of these hotels making so much money. A lot of them now are making more money in revenue than they were in 2019.
Among the hotels being affected by the strike, the W Hollywood, Beverly Hilton, Sheraton Grand, and the LA Grand.
During the pandemic, we were called essential workers. Now there's no pandemic. Employers think we are not essential anymore, and they think they can run without us, but we all know that's not true.
A Marriott spokesperson released a statement saying it will work toward a fair labor agreement and have protocols in place to keep the doors open. Speaking of strikes,
We're SAG-AFTRA strong in solidarity with the WGA.
Plans for thousands of actors to join the picket line against studios and streaming services are now on hold until July 12th. But if things don't get worked out by then,
you're going to start seeing a big drop-off if the actors take to the streets in new shows on both the traditional networks and the streamers, and you're going to see some of your ceremonies, like the Emmys, go dark.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
As hundreds of thousands of people head to our beaches for Independence Day, law enforcement is ramping up patrols. SDPD says they've set up multiple command posts from South Mission Beach to La Jolla. The department says the increased patrols will help officers respond to calls as fast as possible. Tourists say they've noticed more police on the roads as well.
Our Uber did go through a DUI checkpoint last night, so that was good. It was like, hey, that's why we call an Uber, you know? Yeah.
That checkpoint took place on Grand Avenue after 10 p.m. Police say 11 people were arrested.
Lots of heat over the interior the last couple of days. We're not completely finished with it just yet, so make sure you're finding ways to stay cool, taking proper measures to stay hydrated with water. Overall, our temperatures will be trickling down the next couple of days. It will stay dry. Could we see some changes for the weekend? We'll let you know here in just a few. But you know what? We're still under some alerts when it comes to the heat. Heat advisories, excessive heat warnings continuing again around Borrego Springs, Julian, toward Pine Valley till 8 o'clock this evening. As we go through time, we'll start to see those numbers, like I said, beginning to slowly trickle their way down. But even so, I mean, look at this. That's an overnight low. Borrego Springs only down to 81. Mount Laguna 66. That's a warm night for you here, too. And 63, again, around Chula Vista. More comfortable, again, around Oceanside, down to 59. Borrego Springs, back into the upper 100s. As we work our way into your Tuesday afternoon for Independence Day, Mount Laguna 75. Another hot day in Remote at 94. Oceanside, Chula Vista into the mid and the upper 70s. Take a look at Futurecast and notice no widespread cloudiness going on. There can be some right along the immediate shoreline, but very limited as we work our way throughout the overnight and into Tuesday. But we'll start to notice, again, some of those clouds returning to the coast as we go through time, and the numbers dropping down just a bit. We go into late week and the weekend, those upper 70s turning into mid 70s, perhaps a little more noticeable over some of the interior valleys, again with some fog and then some sunshine. Look at this. We're going to go from the upper 80s down into the lower 80s come Friday and also into Saturday. Heading into the mountainous terrain, there will be some wind around the next couple of days, and notice temperatures here starting out in the mid-70s Tuesday, falling off close to 70 by the weekend. And then throughout the deserts, it's just going to be a slow drop, still staying up there into the mid and the upper 100s as we go throughout the extent of the forecast. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Potter.
The corpse flower is now in bloom at the San Diego Botanic Garden. The garden has extended its hours until 11 o'clock tonight to give more people a chance to see and smell the rare flower. The plant is native to Indonesia and is known for its strong odor, described as smelling like rotting flesh. It only blooms every 4 to 5 years and fades after about 48 hours. The garden will also be open tomorrow from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And Hamilton's Canop, To Tell a Story, is the latest piece of public art to be added to the Stewart collection. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando explores the 800-foot pathway that welcomes students to the UC San Diego campus.
When you walk onto the UC San Diego campus from the trolley, you're greeted by a story that unfolds over an 800-foot pathway made up of 20,000 handcrafted pavers, each bearing a single textured word like Braille under your feet.
Yes, so some people have commented that when they step into the walkway, because you step into an artwork, that you may not notice. That is definitely a reality. But maybe you'll notice it when you start walking, because there is a sculptural quality to the artwork, and Hamilton worked very closely to the people who fabricated each one of the pavers, and you feel the words.
Some words are raised up like a rubber stamp, while others are engraved into the basalt stones. They are all part of Canop, To Tell a Story, the latest public art added to the Stewart collection. As the work was being installed last April, Jessica Berlanga Taylor began her tenure as director of the Stewart collection. The collection is unique among U.S. universities in the way it's been commissioning site-specific art for the campus since 1981. Artist Ann Hamilton was inspired by the location of the new trolley station,
which then forms a whole new entrance into the university and obviously into a world that is really structured around language.
Public art of this kind explodes the boundaries of conventional art by making it accessible to everyone in spaces where you can walk over it, touch it, or maybe never notice it. And that's fine with Hamilton.
Whether you recognize that as art is maybe less important, that you just recognize that you've been touched and that your own attention has been drawn. And I think that's actually where the art's formed. So I love the fact that people are walking on it. Over time, that will become its own document of where.
Art in a public space engages people differently than in a museum.
When work is placed in public, it invites what I might call an active finding. Something that you didn't expect that you find, and in that finding, a whole experience unfolds.
Knopp unfolds its story with spine words running down the center of the pathway.
And so that's a sequence of words that I compose that really just refer to the act of walking through the landscape and across this surface.
There's also a Kumeyaay story that provides a continuous narrative within the pathway.
And the title comes from the collaboration with the two Kumeyaay women scholars, Dr. Alexandria Hunter and Eva Trujillo. And Knopp means to tell a story.
But also embedded in Knopp are 1,300 quotes from an estimated 300 sources connected to UC San Diego.
What's contained in the walkway are a series of sort of quotes and sentences, fragmented most of the time, from the work of many scholars at UCSD from different disciplines.
It's the words that catch your attention and the sequences that those end up being placed in your attention because of the pace of walking, that each passage across it is its own composition, just as each student entering the labyrinth of the university is really in many ways making their own program.
And maybe a word or phrase will send a student down a rabbit hole that might end at a resource created by the university's Geisel Library.
They have a website that actually has each line referenced, and you can actually go to the text at its location in the library if you're interested in kind of like found footnotes.
And who better to find footnotes than students, which is another reason the campus is a perfect setting for public art.
You have a culture that's ready to embrace the questions and ready to embrace the experiment that works are. And I would say that's probably not an atmosphere you always find in other public realms.
Public art, like Knopp, is less about whether you like it or not, and more about what do you think about it, or how does it make you feel? And the Stewart Collection is about placing a diverse array of art on campus where you can notice it or just walk over it as you rush off to class. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
On the eve of American Independence Day, we bring you the story of a young student who wonders why there's never been a U.S. president that looks like her. Grace for President began as a children's book, but it's now playing out on stage here in San Diego. Here's KPBS education reporter M.G. Perez.
This week, young performers with San Diego Junior Theater are entertaining audiences and educating them too. Grace Campbell and her third-grade teacher, Mrs. Barrington, provide the history lesson in this musical production of Grace for President. The student actresses portraying the characters are personally invested in this story.
I think that a girl finally needs to be president because it needs to happen, and I feel like it's been long enough.
My name is Zara Mariko Butcher. I go by all pronouns, and I play Grace Campbell.
The musical was first a children's book published in 2008, before Barack Obama was elected president. So when Grace learns all previous presidents were men, she has questions.
Grace really wants to not just think that oh, everything is diverse, because it's not. Grace sees it and wants to change it.
My hope always when I wrote the book was that someday it would be obsolete.
Kelly DiPuccio wrote the book at a very different time in American politics. Almost 15 years later, she says Grace still carries a message of hope for children, no matter who's in the White House.
The same messages in there apply today in terms of, dream big, work hard, persevere. So those all remain.
Bring the Liberty Bell, D-L-O-L.
DiPuccio has seen her book performed as a musical around the country, and she's pleased with the adaptation. The junior theater director is also pleased with her cast and the lesson they deliver.
And that was one of the things I really loved about the text, is it allowed for them to get a good understanding of what is the Electoral College? What do you mean my vote counts? How does one vote change the world?
The equality state of Wyoming cast its 3 very important electoral votes for...
A few votes make the difference in the election results, which only adds to the inspiration of the story.
I don't know about running for president just yet. It is in the back of my mind. It is a consideration.
Spoken as a true candidate. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Grace for President, the musical, continues at San Diego Junior Theater in Balboa Park this Friday through Sunday. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening and a great 4th of July.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.